Support for this podcast and the following message come from Lego. Every girl is different, but research shows girls' self-esteem peaks at age 9 and confidence can begin to drop. Lego helps them keep building with a Minecraft or a Friends set. Learn more at pinterest.com/Lego.
Welcome to Pop Culture Happy Hour, our roundtable podcast about what we are watching and reading and listening to. I'm Linda Holmes. I'm the editor of NPR's pop culture and entertainment blog, Monkey See. I'm here in the studio today with Stephen Thompson of NPR Music. Hi, Stephen.
Hello, Linda.
So Stephen and I are here because, once again, we get an opportunity to bring you an extended version of an interview that ran on All Things Considered.
It's an Audie Cornish remix.
That's right. Audie, as you know, if you listen to the show, Audie often comes and does our regular show, which comes out on Fridays, but this is a special edition where we're going to play you a longer version of the interview that Audie did with the comedian John Mulaney. Again, this is a longer version of what originally ran on All Things Considered. So if you heard that, this is that, but more.
Yeah.
This is All Things Considered from NPR News. I'm Ari Shapiro.
And I'm Audie Cornish. By the time stand-up comedian John Mulaney was 30, he had a successful comedy special called New in Town, an Emmy-nominated turn writing at Saturday Night Live, and he was on his way to the comedy promised land, his own sitcom. But then Mulaney hit a bit of a wall. That self-titled Fox sitcom was about a young comedy writer living in New York, and it was a classic, filmed in front of a live studio audience type thing, and it was panned and canceled. He turned to other writing projects and started touring again to packed houses, and he found his fans still loved his finely tuned jokes about growing up and getting older.
Now, I was raised Catholic. I don't know if you can tell that from the everything about me. My wife is Jewish, I grew up Catholic, so we got married by a friend. Being married by a friend is a beautiful ceremony that alienates both families' religions while confusing the elderly people at the wedding. What's the name of the bishop? That's actually stand-up comedian Dan Levy. He was the host of MTV's Your Face or Mine.
I asked him about his new special. It's called The Comeback Kid, and it mines its humor from that period right on the edge of adulthood.
My dad is cold-blooded. He once shushed a kid during Lion King on Broadway. That actually happened. We were at Lion King on Broadway, and there was a 5-year-old behind us going, "Look, it's Pumbaa. Look, it's Timon." And my dad turned around and said, "Are you going to talk the entire time?" He's my hero.
You've described your dad, I read, as a guy with, quote, a raised eyebrow, always in a suit, super imposing, looked like a news anchor.
When I was younger, yes.
Okay.
That's how it felt.
Well, what was
I've
interesting?
now seen many more dimensions of it,
Yeah.
but that was my memory of him as a kid, yes.
Well, it was interesting because for this special, especially compared to the first one, New in Town, you kind of look like that.
I am well aware of that, yeah. And I'm well aware that the sort of tone I have now is not dissimilar from his. And now being married and having someone with me to observe the way I act, I've been told it's not at all dissimilar the way I'm behaving now as an adult. And that I have a kind of dry affect sometimes, which I think seems intimidating to people, or at least seems maybe like more cutting than I mean to be, or removed, you know? And I thought, I get it now. My dad was just being funny, and it was coming off way drier.
To kids.
And to a little kid, yeah. And I've found that now when I talk to little kids, I'm like, "Hi, I'm John Mulaney." You know, I'm not good at getting on the floor and relating to them.
This special really highlights what it's like to enter adulthood, which is that period where you, like, talk to your friends' kids, but maybe you don't have your own kids, you know, buying a house, like leaving behind these crummy jobs maybe. What is it about that period that you wanted to, like, mine? Is it just because that's where you are now, or did you really feel like there's something rich about this kind of being on the edge of adulthood or having to admit you're an adult?
Yeah, I think it was more about the plunge. I got married, bought a house, moved cities, had big career things all in 1 year. And so I was just at every phase like, am I the age where you get married? And then I was like, well, yeah, you're 31, you know? And with buying a house, too, I was like, I felt like a little kid driving a Corvette. I was just like, I don't think I should be allowed to do this at all.
You have actually an interesting joke in this special off of the saying, why buy the cow if you can get the milk for free?
Yeah.
Which you describe as insulting. We should say to people.
Oh, it's incredibly insulting, first off, to an entire gender.
And in the family-friendly way, I can explain it. It's the idea that, why marry a woman if you're already in a relationship with her?
Yes.
And then your joke takes it in an unexpected direction.
Now it's like, why buy the cow, ? Maybe because every day the cow asks you when you're going to buy it, and you live in a really small apartment with the cow, so you can't avoid that question at all. And also, the cow is way better at arguing than you are, and the cow grew up in a family that knows how to argue. Why buy the cow, ? Maybe because every time another cow gets bought, you have to go to the sale, and you have to sit next to your cow at the sale, and your cow looks over at you the entire time like, and does not enjoy the sale at all, even though she's the one that wanted to go to the sale. And she's especially mad because that farmer and cow met like 8 months after you guys met.
But it walks a line that I think you have become very deft at, which is a joke like this where someone could listen to it cold and think, oh, God, he's comparing women to cows.
Oh, yeah, that would be terrible. That would be really bad.
But it gets at this question that I've been hearing a lot of talk this year from comedians about audiences being too sensitive. What's your sense of all that as you've been doing this tour?
I don't dwell in too many areas that would be dark or possibly treacherous, But like when I've had jokes that I've wondered, like, would anyone react to this in a negative way? I don't know. If you just stand by the comedy of it, and if you're just in that room and the audience is connecting to it, then the fear of someone taking it out of context and being like, did you call a woman a cow? I can be like, there were a whole bunch of people there that can attest to the fact that I was saying something differently. Also, that's kind of our job, is to sometimes get flack, and I don't mind it that much.
I know on your Fox sitcom, there was a character, Jane, that there was some like sort of internet criticism of. This was a character who's sort of like a single woman who's a little bit crazy, but she was born out of the idea of like women being accused of being crazy.
Yeah. She was more obsessed with justice and therefore was the type that you would accuse of acting crazy when really she was just trying to get justice from a breakup. And also, we were kind of like trying to dwell in but show a different side of those TV archetypes. Now that, I will say, is a surefire way to annoy some people.
For John Mulaney, that was not the only lesson learned. We talked more about what he was going for with that sitcom, whether or not people got the humor. But then I asked him why, despite his self-deprecating style on stage, none of this experience was in his stand-up.
I think other people did the deprecating. I didn't need to turn it on myself. I also try not to talk too much about entertainment stuff.
Did you have a moment, though, where you thought, maybe I can write jokes about, I don't know, what it's like to experience a failure or have people kind of pick on it?
I do think there's something to that I would like to write about. It's very interesting to go through a failure. And like a true failure, because a lot of things, they fail on one level, but then everyone loves them because of it. They become like lovable failures.
Yeah.
We were an unloved failure.
That did not happen here.
No. We were, there was no cult. It was just me. We're, in like the kind of yay culture we're in now, like everything is celebrated somewhere on the internet. And I have yet to find that pocket that was psyched.
Well, given that people were describing your career as a roller coaster, right? Like getting hired at SNL like at a young age and then getting your own show. And did it feel like this was just the other side of the roller coaster, right? Like you did the climb and were things moving too fast?
No, but it was good to have a dip regardless. While I think I was a grounded person, it's really good to be yanked down to the actual ground and be like, oh, okay, I'm definitely not always just going to be patted on the back. At age 33, that's like a very good thing to go through, because I think just, even though I didn't feel like, oh, this is accelerating so much, just being on a everything's clicking track, isn't that good for you as a person?
How did it make you think differently about what you wanted out of a career?
Well,
or even if you wanted to stay in comedy, right, like as a career?
Oh, that's funny. No, I never considered getting out of comedy.
I'm not saying it was that bad.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. It made me just think like you have to be enjoying what you're doing, because if you feel fried as a person or fried as a writer, just sort of, exhausted and spent, and maybe it's not making you feel good, the actual process, to then hit one of these pockets is really rough, And it's a good reminder to always be kind of a kind person to everybody, because when you hit one of these pockets, when you're really down in a real stupid Frank Capra way, you're really grateful to have people around you.
I wanted to ask you one or two other questions about TV, because I feel like we were born roughly around the same time, and maybe we're watching all the same stuff. The sitcom you did was what they call multi-camera format. For people listening, it's kind of exactly what it sounds like, right? Multiple cameras. And it was like the dominant form, like what sitcoms looked like in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. What did you grow up watching? And like which of those sitcoms did you really love?
I grew up watching a lot of stuff that was on, and then a lot of stuff that was not on. And I didn't know what was on and what was not on because of like UHF stations in Chicago that would show I Love Lucy and Three's Company, and shows that had maybe just been canceled in the late 70s, but I was watching like they were on at that point. I never had any awareness of what was on TV. Like I would watch I Love Lucy, and then I would watch Different Strokes, and then I would watch Alf, and then I would watch Three's Company.
And you're like, these things go together. This is totally a well-programmed block.
And I was just like, this is television. There was no sense of, okay, well, Different Strokes is currently the #1 show in America. I Love Lucy has not been on the air for 30 years. I had no sense of that, So that was kind of fun. I just thought that was TV, like this black and white show is happening, and also Alf is happening at the same time. I remember the first time I didn't like a show, and it was a very weird feeling. I was watching a sitcom, and I was like, I don't like this that much. And then I remember it stopped being on TV, and I thought, I bet it's not on TV because I didn't like it. And,
are you allowed to say what that show was?
Yeah, I'll say it.
Throw down that gauntlet.
Yeah, I'll throw down this gauntlet. It was called Just the 10 of Us, and it was a spin-off of Growing Pains. Much respect to anyone involved with Just the 10 of Us. And believe me, I've been through a sitcom cancellation, so we're all in the same camp. But I did not, at that age, enjoy Just the 10 of Us. It was a spin-off of Growing Pains about the gym teacher, I believe, and what his life was like.
Rich, fertile ground.
Yeah, and I was about 6 or 7, and it was a hard pass. And then I watched Saturday Night Live, The Simpsons, all that stuff. And then for me, the biggest thing was when Late Night with Conan O'Brien came out in, I guess, 93. That became like my show, me and my brother's show, because it felt like all of our sense of humor put in one thing. When people talk about, like, for them, a big, comedy mind shift, Late Night with Conan O'Brien was that.
When did you start writing jokes? Because you seem very much a writer.
So in school, I feel like this was like a big thing in the late 80s and early 90s with lazy teachers, was this idea of you can write a report or you can do like a skit. I don't know if that happened in anyone else's school.
No, not familiar, but I'm
it was sort of like,
intrigued.
it was like, okay, we've all read Uncle Tom's Cabin. Now you can do a diorama, or you can write an essay about it. Yeah, right. Or you could like put on a small play about it. And I would always pick the play. And so I liked to sort of write like little things like that. And I loved like getting them together and working with the other actors and bossing people around.
On a doomed production.
On a doomed production, on a short, retelling of Maniac McGee or something. So I really liked doing that. I wrote jokes when I was like, boy, the internet was around. I found Woody Allen's address, what I thought was his address, online.
Oh, wow.
And I mailed him jokes that then got returned to my house because I don't think I had put proper postage on it. And my mom was like, "Did you write a letter to Woody Allen?" I was like, "Give me that, shut up." So that was weird. I just remembered that now.
They were unopened, it just like returned to sender.
Yeah, I think I just put an old stamp I found that was out of date or something. Mailed it off to
This ought to do it.
an address I found online that was like, "This is Woody Allen's publicist." And I was like, I'm going to mail him jokes and go from there.
Well, John Mulaney, thank you so much for talking with us. This has been great.
This has been great. Thank you for talking with me. It was a pleasure.
John Mulaney, his new comedy special, The Comeback Kid, is on Netflix.